Hello and welcome to the third episode of Mercy Walks with Migrants. My name is Mike Poulin and I'm a member of the Mercy Justice Team. Joining me today is Sister Rosemary Welsh, a native of Springfield, Missouri. Sister Rosemary is a nurse by education and professional choice, and she loves it. She has served in a variety of positions in various Mercy hospitals and served as a missionary for 10 years in Guatemala and southern Mexico. Sister Rosemary has been in Laredo, Texas for 27 consecutive years, serving in various roles and advocating for some of Laredo's most needy and vulnerable persons. Currently, she serves as a director of outreach services at Mercy Clinic and executive director of Casa de Misericordia. She also visits detainees at the local detention centers, makes home visits, hospital visits, and responds to invitations for public speaking, kind of like for our interview today. Welcome, Sister Rosemary.
Thank you very much. And I think I sent you an old thing. Actually, I've been here 31 years.
Oh, well, we'll have to update that. 31
It
years.
was maybe something that we did maybe 5 years ago. So it's been my privilege to be in Laredo for 31 years. The
Wow, thank
second time around.
you. So you've been in Laredo for a long time, but you're not from there. What drew you to work in Laredo, and what's it like right now living in a border community?
But what happened is years ago when I was a novice getting ready to make vows, been in the community in 1970, and I'd actually asked to wait to make vows at that time, and it wasn't exactly the rhythm of all the other sisters. So I think they thought if they would send me to Brownsville, which was one of the furthest ways from St. Louis, I might leave the community quietly. And what happened is I love the Sisters of Mercy. I've always wanted to be a Sister of Mercy since I walked in the door. I fell in love with the Hispanic community. I fell in love with the idea of trying to learn another language, and more importantly, to live in another culture. So in 1970, I decided this is where I'd like to come back to, or someplace in Laredo, or working with the Hispanic community. So in 1976, after I made final vows, I was sent here, and I've loved it ever since. I came in 76, I went to Guatemala in 81, and in 1992, when I needed to leave Guatemala, they asked me to come back to Laredo. They asked me where I wanted to go, and I said, I want to go home. And they said, oh, you want to go to Springfield, Missouri? And I said, no, really, I'd like to go to Laredo, Texas. I consider this my home now. I really don't have any family in Springfield. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I absolutely love it here. Living on the border is challenging, and it's exciting, and it's a huge responsibility, I think, for people that reach out and work with individuals that many people don't want to work with. There's really a little anti-immigrant feeling at this point, and I think we need to speak up and journey with the people as we are trying to do. And so I find it a challenge. And one of the things that I love is that we're able to work with a variety of people. And as the Sisters of Mercy that came here in 1894, we don't say we do it by ourselves. We have to collaborate. We don't have to. We want to collaborate with other people. So we have a lot of opportunities to do that in Laredo. And it's been a challenge, but with the immigration issue, and as you all know, is getting more challenging and more trying and much more difficult every single day.
So, what do you think in the years that you have been there? What are some of the changes that you have witnessed in Laredo in dealing with the border and dealing with the way that the U.S. government, confronts the border? What's different now than it was when you arrived?
Well, when I arrived in 1976, we could go back and forth across. In fact, we used to go all the time. People would come as visitors. We would take them over. We'd park on this side and we'd walk across. We'd have a meal. We'd do some shopping. That sort of came to a screeching halt when 9/11. The border really got very much more difficult to cross. And then with the cartels, the people that are with the drugs it's much more difficult. We haven't been across for a long time. If I do go across, it's with people that take me across because it is dangerous. In Laredo, we're not dangerous though, and that's what sometimes people have the idea that, oh, we can't go to Laredo, we can't send our sisters, we can't live there. It's not. We're very safe in Laredo, Texas. It's actually one of the safer cities. But the changes have been there was much more of a welcoming of immigrants. I don't see that now. I see that there's more of a backlash against immigrants from all over the country, all over the world. Immigration is a global issue. And even individuals who are from some of the countries that have immigrated themselves seem to have a little different sentiment. So I think that's how it's changed. We are not in danger, though. The thing that has not changed is the need to collaborate with other agencies. In both of our ministries, we collaborate with many agencies in town, and we also collaborate with Border Patrol and ICE, Laredo Police Department, the Sheriff's Department. You need to be able to journey with individuals, the immigrant community, whether they have been here for years or they just crossed. You need to be able to pick up the phone and call somebody, so maybe to find somebody or even to raise a different point that you think that maybe somebody has not been treated as fairly as they should be. So I think one of the things I've learned is that you continue to learn is that you want to collaborate, number one, and then you don't demonize the other. Can't demonize Border Patrol, you can't demonize ICE, can't demonize other people. They're in their minds are doing their job. What we need to do is continue to speak up and voice our concerns, especially around the critical concerns.
And when you talk about the organizations that you collaborate with in working with people who have immigrated, I imagine most of those people are undocumented. What is life like now on the border in Laredo, maybe just across the border, for people who are entering the country who don't have documentation?
Well, I think people know if they don't have the documentation, what are the challenges. One of the things that I think, Mike, and I'm concerned about this, and I've raised it at different meetings and levels. Of course, we're concerned with the migrants coming across. We collaborate and we work very closely with the two shelters here. In fact, we sent out an alert to the sisters through the Justice Committee that we needed some help with medications for those individuals coming in. The Sisters of Mercy associates, other people responded with open hearts. So we need to continue to do that. We need to be at meetings, speak out, make sure that they're getting humane treatment. The other issue that I don't think we're talking enough about, what about the DACA folks? What about the dreamers? What about the people that came into this country when they were very young, and now they might be 25, 30, there's the nurses, they're teachers' assistants, they have all sorts of ministries and work in our country. We're not even talking about giving them some path of citizenship, legal permanent residency, or being able to be a citizen. And so that's another issue. We're not addressing that as a country. And I don't know what we're going to do about those 11 million, it's probably 12 million people now, that have been in our country for years. And the majority of them have not broken the law. They have children. They do volunteer work. Many of our volunteers might fall into that category. And they have no hope of ever being in this country as a legal permanent resident or as a citizen. And they've been here for years, some of them 20, 25 years. And just think this, what if we had done something about this in the early 2020, before the borders closed down, before there was such a fight again? Those people had been paying into Social Security all these years. We wouldn't be talking about the problem with Social Security. So I think there's the issue of the migrants coming, and we have to be sure that they are treated with humane treatment efficiently to try to find out for their asylum status. Then there's the other issues, the dreamers and the people that came in with their families. They have documentation to work. Some of them, the DACA recipients do, but they have to redo their papers every 2 years. And it costs a good deal of money to do that. Right after they get it renewed, they have to start redoing it again because it's a lengthy process and people going through that. So I think those are the issues, and both of our ministries confront that daily. Neither ministry asks people where they're from, where they were born. We're just there to receive them and give them the care that they need. And following the critical concerns, I think that's the thing here. I think all the critical concerns sort of mesh themselves. And then all of them, the basis of many of them, I believe, is racism.
You've talked, I mentioned a couple of times the ministries that you work with, the clinic and Casa de Misericordia. Tell us a little bit more in detail about the focus of the work at those two places.
Well, Mercy Clinic was an outreach of when we sold the hospital in 2003. And hospital sisters have been here since 1894. They were invited. The important thing, I think, Mike, if we can just mention it briefly, is the Sisters of Mercy don't go into a community and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what we want to do, whether it fits what you need, it doesn't matter. This is what Sisters of Mercy are invited. We were invited in 1894 to come to Laredo to start hospitals, organized healthcare. In 2003, the Sisters of Mercy and the Mercy Health System decided that we no longer wanted to sponsor the hospital, but Mercy Ministries of Laredo was formed. Mercy Clinic is an outreach part, and Casa de Misericordia. Mercy Clinic, we do not take Medicaid, Medicare, individuals with insurance. We take care, it's a lot of individuals who are working, can't afford insurance, don't have insurance. So that's that group that we reach out to. And from the beginning, actually, since I came back from Guatemala, our emphasis at the primary health care clinic, now Mercy Clinic, is education, prevention, early detection through education and prevention. So that's what I do. That's part of my ministry here. And I work with the community outreach workers who go out to the community and to spread the word about what we are about and invite people to come. The other ministry is Casa Misericordia, which is a domestic violence shelter. And in 1995, we were invited to go to a meeting with the district attorney and about 20 other agencies, more or less, to talk about the issue of domestic violence and violence against children. And so we were working along we started having conferences. And that during that time, we got notice from St. Louis, that was part of the ministry where we were, and we could ask for some money, up to $300,000, to start an unduplicated ministry and something that we thought could be, after 3 years, could be on its own. So we went back to that group and we said, well, sisters said, we could get $300,000. What do you all think we should do? That's again asking the people that we work with, what did they think would be the greatest need? And much to our surprise, they said, open a domestic violence shelter and do it a little differently than the other one, because the other one at that time, so we weren't duplicating services, did not take individuals, women who were pregnant, and did not offer wraparound services. So we went and asked for the money, and lo and behold, in January of 1998, we got the funding, and we opened the shelter 6 months later. Saying that for $300,000, I don't know how we thought we could ever open a shelter for $300,000 and have the good staff, but Mercy Hospital was still in existence, and they helped us a lot. The DA's office helped, the sheriff's department, the police department, our own employees at the hospital really helped us to get the ministry off and started. In fact, we just recently commemorated our 25th anniversary, July the 7th.
Oh, congratulations. That's there's been a lot going on down there for a long time. And as I hear all of the things that you've touched on as you've been talking, it makes me think about what you said about how you connect with a lot of our Mercy critical concerns in your work there. A domestic violence shelter. I would imagine that you cater primarily to women. That there is racism involved with who we want to keep out of our country and how we want to treat people of color who've come into our country or who already live here. And not only that, then the issue of immigration that is both current and we see in the news all the time, the things that are going up at the border, the blockades that are going up around the river, the way that people are being treated as they come across. But it's not just that, as you said, it's this fact that we have, millions of undocumented people here who are contributing to our communities and our society, and that, are productive citizens, are people who've lived most of their lives here, and they struggle with making a future, because even, our DACA young people, some of them aren't so young anymore, and they don't know how long that's going to last, how long they're going to have the resources that are available through that. So as kind of see all of these things, and then the work that you've done with the clinic. Uh, One of the things that came out of our chapter meeting recently is this statement that the Sisters of Mercy want to renew their understanding of our mercy charism in order to foster the growth of communities of belonging. And the charism is different from the critical concerns. The critical concerns are not nearly as old. The charism has been around for a long time.
Mhm.
How do you see your work flowing out of the charism of mercy and this idea of communities of belonging?
Well, I thought a lot about that. One of the things is I think Catherine McCauley, she never thought she did it alone, and she wanted to include all individuals. Like she reached out, she saw a need, um, and reached out to do something about that need, and she had some resources, but she collaborated with other people, and I think that's one of the things that I think about how we continue to do that over the years. And then, like we're down here, there's only three Sisters of Mercy. We're answering a call from the community here, the population of the people that we journey with daily, whether they live in very affluent areas or live like us in just a regular neighborhood. But we collaborate with them, and we're responding to a need, but we don't do it alone. And we have never said like you can't be a lone ranger, if you know what I mean by that. That we're out here just doing our thing, doing what we think is necessary. It's really answering a call, just like Catherine answered a call. And I think every Sister of Mercy, associate, co-workers, people that we collaborate, we answer a call every day to live out our fourth vow, which is to walk and to journey with people with health issues, education issues, and people that are marginalized. And I think that's what I heard that clarion call at the chapter. We need to continue to do that, to reach out to different communities and ourselves as well, to call each of us to be our best selves, to live out what our call was whenever. I've been a Sister of Mercy 56 years, and I do it again tomorrow. But I think, as Catherine tells us, and our employees could recite this, that Catherine was calling us to be good today, but better tomorrow. And I think she would add to that, shame on you if you're not. I think it is a clarion call to communities among ourselves, and most importantly, how does that outreach to others? And that no one is excluded. Is everyone really welcome? Is everybody really welcome in our community? I think we've worked on this with the issue of racism, becoming anti-racist. Is everybody really welcome, LGBTQ community, and in our circles? I think our call, a clarion call, I know you think maybe the critical concerns are newer, but really, Catherine for years said, let's work with women and children to think about nonviolence. So, and the environment. So I think they all cross. The thing is that we're invited, we respond to a need, and we collaborate with other people, and that we never said that we do it alone. The other thing I've always thought, if every Sister of Mercy, if every single one of us and associates would have a friend that did not belong to our social circle. And by a friend, I mean someone that we could go down and have a Whataburger with, go to their house, they come to our house, that we really feel at home with, that it would be change our lives. I know it changed my life when I went to Brownsville because people reached out to me, and it changes my life every single day here. When people come and say, Sister, I remember you like 20 years ago when you went to visit my mom who was dying. And when people tell me they remember me from several years ago, I always say, please tell me I was nice. I think that the challenge is that we are our best selves to the people that knock on our door and are reaching out for something, maybe just a little bit of compassion. So, and maybe just understanding or just listening, accompaniment, and then seeing reality through their eyes.
Tell me a little bit. You mentioned the idea of collaboration several times as you've talked. Do you have a story or an instance of collaboration that you're particularly happy about, or maybe has been particularly challenging as you've done your work? Because I think as I talk to sisters who are doing different kinds of work, this kind of comes up over again. It's like, well, it's not just this, like you said, the Lone Ranger out there, going and doing whatever, or even three Lone Rangers, there's three Sisters of Mercy in Laredo, but that there are sisters in different places working with other groups. That tends to be a theme that maybe doesn't get heard about so much. What would be a collaboration you could maybe share a story about with us?
Well, I think several. I think one is when the people collaborated with us to help us open the shelter. That was a huge collaboration. We never could have done it for $300,000. And it was over a 3-year period. I think that was huge. I think when we sold the hospital and people rallied around us, people were mad at us here in Laredo. They thought the sisters abandoned them, but collaborative effort, people really responded. And then let me tell you two real quickly. We were at a meeting, I guess a year and a half ago, maybe not that long. And all the people were sitting around the table talking about the immigration issue. And you had some clergy, you had people from both hospitals, people from the political realm, and they were really anti-immigrant. We had the Border Patrol, we had ICE people, and as they came around to us, we were talking about how we had to treat everybody with respect and dignity. But when they were here, how could we continue to make sure that their journey here, they were received, and if they were moving forward, how that would happen. And we were talking, and people were not really agreeing with us too much. And we went to the hospitals, and the hospital said, we're very busy. And they gave the impression that the migrants were infiltrating their hospitals. That's why they didn't have all the hospital beds open. So we actually spoke up and said, well, how many beds are in the hospital, and why are they not open? Because we know. They said, well, because we don't have enough nurses. Well, the conversation moved around, and it went to the chief of the Border Patrol. And he came to him, and he said, you know what? I couldn't agree more with the Sisters of Mercy, because I want the people that work with me to be treated with respect and dignity. But he said equally, like the sisters are saying, the people that come to us, that come from other countries seeking a better life, for whatever reason, I want them also to be treated with respect and dignity. That was a big step for him to say that, because these were all these politicians that were saying the sisters are wrong and we have to close the borders and all that. I thought that was really a very poignant moment. And the Border Patrol they call me and ask me, can we take somebody at the shelter? I couldn't find a person not too long ago, and somebody was asking me to visit somebody at the detention center. I called my ICE contact, found out where that person was, and was able to visit them on Sunday. And then a little more fun collaborative effort. We have parties a lot of times. We celebrate everything, but the shelter had an Easter party. And there's a family that has been helping the shelter for maybe 23, 24 years for Christmas posadas and the Easter party. So this year we were at the Easter party in their backyard. It was hot as Hades. We're having hot dogs, and the kids are having a lot of fun, and it's a collaborative effort. This family, he's a doctor, she's a politician, she's a council member. They bring people from San Antonio, Houston, families that have been coming 23 years to collaborate to make sure that these young people have a good Easter, a good Christmas, and not so much gifts, but a presence of people. By presence, I mean presence, being there for them. So a young man was leaving at the end of the day. He's in a wheelchair. He's got lots of challenges for his entire life. He's got a loving family. He had more fun cracking eggs and just done a lot of fun things. And on the way out, he said to one of our employees, one of our co-workers, she's in charge of all the children, said, Thelma, I didn't win a prize today, but it's been the best day of my life. Those are the kinds of opportunities we can get to the folks that come to us by collaborating with others, that women and children, men that have also been victims of domestic violence, church people who feel that they're sometimes not received. We need to make everybody that comes to us, for whatever reason, feel like it's been the best day of their life. So I think that those are some of the collaborative efforts that we are so fortunate here, Mike, at how many people want to journey with us. They trust the Sisters of Mercy because of the long history, not just because of Sister Maria Luisa Sister Beth and myself, because of the long history of the Sisters of Mercy in this community, of standing up for individuals who needed somebody to stand up for them.
Those are really great stories. Thank you for sharing those. I want to also ask you, as we kind of start towards wrapping up, what is there anything about immigration and immigrant people in particular that you think is important for folks, especially U.S. citizens who aren't near the border, who don't experience it? Is there anything important for people to know that you want to pass along that you haven't maybe said already?
I thought a lot about that, and this is what I'd like to ask people that think that they should stay home or think that we have enough problems in our own country. Imagine yourself in a place where you no longer can feed your children, that they're coming to you and asking you to going to have drugs, and one of your children needs to be a mule, which means to help us sell drugs, and you have 2 sons, and you have to pick one son or one daughter. We want your daughter to be a prostitute. What would you do? And I could tell you some horror stories. And the sisters, I admire so much the sisters in Honduras, what they have been through and journeyed with the people. And we've had stories of people coming to our country. What would you do? What if you had to tell your grandmother and your mom goodbye and you knew you may never see them again? What would you do if you were going to go to another country? Women have told me this at the detention center and people that we followed up afterwards. Sister, when we decided that we had to leave, we had no other choice. I was being used as a prostitute. My kids were being harmed. I knew when I was going to go to the United States that I would have to start using birth control. I know that's a topic, but you know why they were doing it? Because they knew that they would be raped on the way, maybe 2 or 3 times. Now, who would do that unless they were desperate enough and looking for a better life? And they always say, we knew the people in the United States would welcome us. I think they're getting some bad information, but I would just say, maybe go to a detention center. Watch some videos, watch some things about human trafficking and how human trafficking in our country. There's a lot of human trafficking of young people that are American citizens. So I think my thing would be to try to be open-minded about it. Like I try to be open-minded about other issues, other opinions, but put yourself in that situation. What would you do? Would you tell your mother goodbye and say, I don't know if I'll ever see you again? Bye, Grandma. Or if you've seen people murdered, and I won't go into it graphically, there's femicide in Honduras, what would you do? And I think that's the question. And then try to learn some facts. And then when you're out visiting with people, and they have a different opinion, you can not argue with them. You can disagree, but not be disagreeable. One of the things is what we give a lot of presentation. You cannot seem like you're preaching at them. This is our viewpoint. I'm a Sister of Mercy for years. These are the issues that we feel strongly about. Well, tell me why you feel about. We have to in some way change some hearts and minds about these issues, that the migrants are here to eat our breakfast or take our jobs away. There's not enough people to pick onions around here now. So I think that would be my try to find out why, and if you're from Mexico and you've been here 15, 20 years, when I hear that saying, I came the right way, what is the right way? And they say they need to get in line. Where is the line? So I think we need to ask that. And then the whole thing of the DACA and the Dreamers. I have a friend who is a teacher aide at one of the schools. And she has to sit there, and this is in Laredo, Texas, when they go and have a break. And she has to listen to some of her colleagues talk bad about the immigrants, talk bad about the DACA and Dreamers. They don't know she's a DACA recipient. And she says, I have to swallow my pride and just keep my mouth shut. So those are the stories that I think that we struggle with daily. And I think just to find out, how do we think about people? When somebody has a different opinion than mine, I try to say the same thing. can you tell me why? Why do you think they should stay home when they do not have enough to eat? And they'll say, well, their governments have to do it. Well, obviously their governments aren't doing it. The push factors and then the pull factors. We're asking for people, their cartel. I mean, they're spending their life savings to come to our country, and then they have their door slammed. It's hard. I don't know what the answer is, Mike. I really don't. But I'm glad and I'm proud about the Sisters of Mercy that in 2005 we did our first immigration statement, and that we continue as sisters to try to receive the immigrants at all levels, whether they're from here or from wherever they are, and then help the people that don't maybe feel that way at least understand a little bit better.
Well, one of the reasons that we wanted to do interviews like this was to share some of these stories with people particularly who might not know a lot about immigrants, or people who haven't encountered the situation on the border and only hear about it on TV or maybe in newspaper. And you said that you asked that question, what would you do to protect your family or your child? My response to that is I would do pretty much anything. Even if that means, moving someplace safer or going someplace that I could feed them. I think, most parents would feel that way. And so, like you said, if we can put ourselves kind of in that mindset, I think that, we can come to a greater understanding. But I also like you're going forward with people that you disagree with and asking them questions about, why did they think the way that they do. And it's been helpful now for us to have you share these stories so that we can share them with others and have that maybe place to start the dialogue around, what do changes look like? What changes do we need? And what might they look like for new immigrants, for people who have been here for a long time, for people who have, kind of waited in the line, even though we don't know exactly what the line is, because there's a lot of hope around that. So thank you today for coming and talking with me, Sister Rosemary. I've appreciated working with you as we prepare for this time together and for having this conversation today. For those who are listening to our recording, if what you heard today inspires you to walk with migrants, we ask you to please join the Sisters of Mercy on behalf of immigrants. You can go to the address that's on the screen now and sign up to receive action alerts on immigration and other critical issues like some of the ones we have talked about. Also, I want to thank, in addition to thanking Sister Rosemary again, I want to thank Andrew, who's doing our behind the scenes technical work for us. Andrew's always on the other side of the camera, but he makes all of the things happen so that we can get this done well. And then lastly, I want to say to stay tuned for upcoming episodes of Mercy Walks with Migrants. We have a number more immigration stories to share. So thank you for joining us. Have a great day and walk with mercy.
Nos vemos pronto.